Welcome to Animal Justice's April panel, From Animal Farmers to Animal Advocates. I'm Kimberly Carroll, and I will be your host tonight. I'm a strategist for animal justice and founder of the Animal Justice Academy. You can find my bio in the chat. And tonight, folks, we are bringing together former animal farmers, a slaughterhouse inspector, a ranch worker, whose conscience and compassion led them from producing and killing animals to advocating for them. They're going to offer us something tonight that we don't often get, enough of, and that's firsthand accounts from inside animal agriculture. What they saw, what it was like for them, what sparked this change of heart, and what challenge, this change of heart that challenged their livelihood, their identity, even their community belonging. But before we dive in, just in the spirit of social justice for all, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all lands throughout the world that we find ourselves on. In Canada, we especially acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people, the first humans who called this land home. And of course, we dedicate this evening to the billions of animals suffering around the world at this very moment in places like factory farms and laboratories and fishing vessels and puppy mills and fur farms. So thank you all for being here and for having your hearts here with us. All right, I'm excited for you to get to know our panelists for this evening. You can spotlight them as I go, Kirsten. We're going to start with Jennifer Barrett, who is a former chicken farmer and a cattle rancher from Southwest Arkansas, whose life and perspective have been shaped by years of living and working closely with the land, animals, and the realities of farm life. Her transformation was first sparked by the profound health benefits she and her husband experienced after adopting a whole food plant-based diet, which then opened the door to deeper reflection on compassion, change, and what it means to live in greater alignment with her values. Jennifer, welcome, darling.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And
It,
this is Jennifer's first panel. We're so happy to have
it
you. And
is. It
she's a little
is.
nervous, but we're going to take good care of her.
I am. But seeing that screen fill in with all those people and hearing all the places that they're from, that was so beautiful. I'm
Yeah,
so honored to be here. Thank
it
you.
is a beautiful gathering. Thank you, Jennifer. Next up, we have Renee King-Sonnen, founder and executive director of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Renee has been at the forefront of animal rights activism internationally ever since she and her husband went from being cattle ranchers to vegans and turned their Texas ranch into a haven for farmed animals. Once they did that, their story went viral on CBS Evening News back in 2016, which gained Rowdy Girl an international following and fan base. And Renee hasn't stopped since. She's had a major documentary come out, which is on Apple TV, and we'll put that in the chat. She's got new book under her belt called Rowdy Girl, folks. Renee, thank you for being here, my dear. It's so good to see you.
Always an honor. Good to see you again.
Yay. And did I say joining from Texas? Okay,
I'm in
good.
Texas. I'll be in Toronto next month.
Yes, you're coming for Ava. You're coming to my city. Yay. Not the town I was born in, but the city I live in. Yay. I'm so glad to see you there, Renee. David Magna is a former Canadian slaughterhouse inspector turned animal rights advocate and organizer. So after David witnessed the systemic abuse of animals and the psychological toll on workers firsthand, he left the agricultural industry and has since dedicated his life to advocating for a world without animal exploitation. He's a leading voice with We the Free and a prominent live stream activist who's reached millions through street outreach, investigations, and viral content that challenges deeply held societal norms. David, welcome.
Well, thank you, Kimberly. So many legends here. I can't even begin to explain how excited I am to be here tonight.
Well, David, since I've met you many years ago, I've been wanting to get you on a panel, so I'm so excited to be able to get you here now. Thank you, David.
Likewise, yeah.
Excellent. All right, and then up we have Mike Lanigan, who is a multi-generational farmer and cattle rancher who, in the summer of 2016, Something was in the water in 2016, I tell ya. Realized he was no longer willing to send animals to slaughter. In the years that followed, Mike reimagined his farm as a place rooted in compassion and connection, showing that even lifelong ranchers can find a new way of relating to animals. And today, Farmhouse Garden Animal Home is a space that fosters love and compassion for all animals, with an impact reaching far beyond what Mike could have imagined when he made his decision years ago. Mike, welcome, my friend.
Yes, Kimberly. Oh, this is new for me. I'm a real Neanderthal when it comes to pet stuff. So I've got Sarah helping me keep the buttons working. So
Oh,
I'm trying.
thank you, Sarah Faye. I love it. And well, Mike, your background looks pretty sexy there. You got a
Isn't that
nice
good? You
pink
see, I
light
see one
happening.
amaryllis. You see one amaryllis hiding in there? It's the
That
last
is
one.
gorgeous.
So I
So this
done
is Mike's first time doing a panel as well. We're so happy that you agreed to give us your time and your
well,
heart,
it
Mike.
took some
Thank you so
sweet
much.
talking from Edith to get me on here. So
I know I did. I had to do some sweet
and
talking.
Kimberly, thank you.
Good to have you here, Mike.
Pleasure.
And last but certainly not least, we have Edith Barabash, who is the co-founder and executive director of Farmhouse Garden Animal Home, the same one with Mike. Nearly a decade ago, after spending several summers as a farm intern, she partnered with Mike to transform his working farm into a sanctuary and a humane education space. Over the years, while earning her law degree and building a career in the charity space, Edith has remained deeply involved in the sanctuary, dedicating much of her time to ensuring animals receive the care and love that all beings deserve. So welcome, welcome, Edith. So good to have you here.
That's a nice intro. Thank you so much.
Yay! And I can't wait for folks to hear about the story with you and Mike. So welcome all of you. Just a note to our community. I love all the hearts and the love coming. Just a note to our community that this evening, to be extra kind and encouraging for our panelists. It's incredibly difficult for folks to go against their industry, their community, and to speak out the way they do. So let's take extra special care of them tonight, okay, folks? Excellent. All right, so I'm going to start with asking you all to paint a picture for us of who you were in your animal agriculture days versus now, and tell us a little bit about how that transformation came to be. I think we have about 3 minutes each for you. And I think, you know what, Renee, I'd love to start with your story. It's one that some people are familiar with, but I think everybody needs to be.
Oh, sure. Where I started, well, I am from Texas. I was born and raised in Texas, and I participated in all the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo every year. I used to call myself a rhinestone cowgirl because, I had the collection of leather boots and all the clothes and all the stuff. But I never was a cattle rancher back in those days. I married one. I married him twice. So Tommy Sonnen, who is a multi-generational cattle rancher, his family heritage dates back to the, late 1800s. When I married him the first time, he was working for Dow Chemical, and there was a generation that was skipped, and he was getting, going through Dow, getting his degree. I mean, not his degree, but getting his, just working at Dow, gonna retire there and all that with him. We divorced, and then we remarried like 10, 11 years later, and he had acquired the ranch. And when I moved in on the ranch, I had no idea I was going to fall in love with all those baby calves. I had no idea I was going to fall in love with the cows. It was not in my cards. It was not in my mind. Um, I moved in over there, and at first I just saw the herd like everybody else does typically. And then when Tommy wanted me to become a cattle rancher, a partner, because I wouldn't help him with hay, I wouldn't help him with fences. Yeah, I was doing my singing career then. I was producing music and, doing all the things I like to do. And then he came home one day and he said, Renee, there's these two little baby calves up the road. They need a mama. And I didn't have any kids. And it touched me somehow that there was two babies that needed a mama. And so he went and showed me these calves because I wanted to go see them. And one of them was Rowdy Girl. I called her that because she came bouncing towards me with this big old heart on her head. And I just fell in love with her instantly. And I said, "Aren't you a little rowdy girl?" She was kicking her heels. And so the other one I named Bobo, she died very young. She had what we call a failure to thrive disease. She just never could thrive, probably didn't get her mama's colostrum or enough of it. So she passed away early, but Rowdy Girl became the reason I woke up, the reason I went to sleep at night, like with a feeling good in my heart. And she began to show me the individuality of all those cows. And, that was back in, gosh, when we first got Rowdy Girl, that was long time ago. That was like 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And I went vegan in 2014. So, it took me that long to be able to finally put a name to what had happened because when you're in the cattle ranching industry, you don't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I think I'll go vegan today," and wreck my husband's life and destroy his world and everything else in it. It was a matter. It took a long time for me to get there, but boy, when I did, I came out swinging, and
You sure have.
I came out swinging. So anyway, I wish he was on here to tell his side of the story. It's always interesting to hear. You should have him on your panel one day if you can get him to talk.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, he's a
that's what happened.
sweetheart.
Yeah, that's what
Hmm.
happened. I was on the other side of it like that. And then once I went vegan, I was all in for the animals, and Tommy eventually went vegan too.
Wow, amazing. And now you have the sanctuary. How many animals at Rowdy Girl Sanctuary?
Right now, there's right at 140. Yeah, right at
Wow,
140. We have 147 acres here and a lease adjacent to the property.
amazing. Oh, Renee, thank you so much for getting us started. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about you and your animal ag days. It's not easy being a chicken farmer.
No, no, it's
Mm.
not. We moved to this farm when I was 14. Until then, my dad he worked in the oil field. And so I had lived in suburbia. And we moved to the farm when I was 14 and got to peel back the curtain behind animal ag. The only thing I knew about chickens was, you get them in chicken nuggets at McDonald's. But then coming here to the farm and seeing the operation, we were all really excited about it. It was my dream from a little girl to live on a farm because I loved animals and and I just loved nature. Always just been a nature girl. And I even wrote a letter when I was a little girl saying that I wanted to live on a farm. And when we moved to the farm, my mom had it on the refrigerator, and my dad would say, like, "Well, you got your dang wish, didn't you?" And it was just a dream come true to be here. But it came with the chicken operation, and we worked it as a family. Um, it was it was very much like coming home when we moved to this community because we had lived so many different places, and this small town rural community just accepted us, and you know and then got to know what goes on in the chicken houses, when everything from the first time we got baby chickens and seeing them how they come in on buses, what they used to back in the day, and crates, and they get dumped in the floors. And then every day you have to go in and pick up the dead chickens, and it's a really long. I mean, I would have to go way more than 3 minutes to tell you about it, but
Yeah, no, we'll revisit more of those details in a sec. Yeah.
so um, but then I married Rodney when I graduated from high school. Moved here 87, married Rodney in 91, moved off to Huntsville, Texas, and then we moved back here in 1999. Me and Rodney did, and took the farm over from my parents. And because we loved it, that's the lifestyle we wanted. We wanted the lifestyle, and so just threw ourselves into it. It was, daily picking up dead chickens. Rodney he's like, I call him kind of Rain Man. He's OCD. He's the best chicken farmer ever. Um, and we loved it. We loved our lives here. And then in 2016, it's another long story. Um, after Rodney had been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I started trying to look for ways to get healthier because the doctors were just saying, here's some prescriptions, and, and we couldn't afford it. And so I started looking for natural remedies, and we started adding more veggies in our diet, started cutting out processed foods. I started doing Beachbody workouts and doing their programs. And one of them was a 3-week program where you ate plant-based for 3 weeks. And that's when everything went sideways for me. And because I felt so amazing, I was like, it was amazing how good I felt. And so that was what kind of shifted everything for us. And then we kept working in the chicken houses, kept selling calves, but just knowing, because Rodney did it with me. Rodney has done all of this beside me. And it was really hard to know what to do. But then,
yeah, because all of a sudden, I imagine, Jennifer, you're like, wait a second, we don't actually need to eat these animals to feel okay. So that
yes,
kind of changed
because
things.
it's this normal, necessary thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
98% of the world, they're not vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a normal, necessary thing. And so having that just foundational belief pulled out from underneath me, it was really hard. But I wrote a letter that to my friend Kathy Freston. She's my friend now. But back then I did not know her. I just followed her on Instagram and knew her from seeing her on Oprah. And she got us hooked up with some people. It's a really long story. It's a really long, complicated story. But we quit raising chickens. Our last batch of chickens went out September 2018. We stopped raising breeding cows that same year. And it's been a whirlwind of a lot. It's been a lot, but
Change. It's been a lot of
it's been a
change.
lot of change. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's a big shift, Jennifer, and
Holy
I
crap.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to hear all about it, but thank you for
Okay.
sort of laying the groundwork here so we know sort of we know the lay of the
Okay.
land for you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Mike, tell us about where the transition happened for you.
Well, another long story, and I'm going to keep it less than 3 minutes. Kimberly, is this is my family farm. So we moved here in the early '60s. I left it for 25 years to finish university and worked in forestry for a long while, and then had the call to come back and be a farmer. I needed a new challenge, and a true blue mixed farm. We did everything. We had 29 acres of organic vegetables. We had 8 cows, their offspring, a farm raised bull. We raised chickens and turkeys and pigs, and we did it all. Sold it every Saturday. We had a market year round for 29 and plus years, and that was the mainstay. We did everything. We still have 1 cow left that we milked every morning. I used to make cheese and butter, and we still have the old girl. She's about 24 now. That's Red Eye for any of those in the know. And now we have 23 big fat old cows, and they're out there in the spring mud right now. I feel a little bad because Sarah was out there trying to bed them today. We have a nice herd of volunteers come and help us, and she was out trying to give them a nice bed, and her boots are still there, and she went into her second pair of pants tonight. So and
Yeah.
so she's brought a little aroma with her from the barn. So it's funny. I mean, I heard Renee speaking about it's the young ones that change us. I just about brought to tears thinking of hearing Renee's story, because it was a young one that turned us, and it was the same kind of thing. It was there was this one premature calf that was born way early. It was smaller than my son's Newfoundland puppy. And I was trying to save that calf's life. And I spent more than half a day under the apple tree trying to get it to nurse and trying to get the first milk into it. Mama wasn't cooperating too well. And it was just that time where I just was talking to it and remembering all of the really good farmers that I had known throughout my life and how they worked hard to save the suckies. And old guy that worked for my dad when he was 90, Wilfred Fletcher, he just worked so hard on my dad's calves to keep them going. And I thought of all these wonderful people that had so much love and they would care so greatly for their suckies. But then at age 2, you could pop them on the head and cut them up into pieces or put them on a truck. And I just thought it was so hypocritical. And I just had a silly, I say it was sent from the universe, just a little epiphany. I didn't want to kill my cows. And I thought, that's silly. This is an old farmer that did it all. We used to slaughter our own cows and we did it all. And I just had this silly idea. I thought, well, I wonder if I didn't want to kill my cows anymore. I wondered if I could do it. And that's when I brought in Edith, that other girl up there in the corner. I've known Edith since she was 13. She used to come to my farmer's market every few months with a little resume that had nothing on it. And she wanted to work at my farmer's market. And she also interned as a farmerette on my farm, picking vegetables, picking spinach, and actually even selling cuts of beef at my farmer's market, because we had a beef went to the market every 8 weeks or so. I had a very dedicated herd of a clientele. The last beef sold at my market in 9 minutes. That's an entire beef. I had ladies coming at 3:30 in the morning to line up. So it was a big change. I still have my beef customers. They're still mad at me and they still call me and see if I've changed my mind. And, and they're very forceful. But we haven't.
Yeah, Mike, I'll be even more forceful. So
I know it. And,
me too, Kimberly. Me
yeah,
too.
good,
Edith. Yeah. Edith keeps us in line here all the time. And to bring Edith into this story, anytime she worked for me and she would also be my cashier, and customers would ask her, well, which cut is your favorite one? Which one would you recommend? And Edith would just kind of giggle and say, well, oh no, I don't eat beef. But she became, I'll let her tell the story, but I took her with me to the butcher shop one time.
Yes.
And we unloaded the cow at the slaughterhouse in the barn, all full of every animal you can imagine. There was lambs, there was llamas, cattle, pigs, goats. Everything was there in this whole barn. And Edith kind of doe-eyed looked at me and says, what's going to happen with these? I said, well, they'll all be in heaven tomorrow. It was the kill days. Those days that I went there, and Edith just went all quiet. And maybe there's a good time to bring Edith in if you want. But
yeah. Yeah. And what did she say, Mike? Did she say anything at that point? What did she say? Did she say anything at that point?
She was real quiet. I mean, I don't think I took her into the slaughterhouse itself. She just was in the bar. No, she was just all quiet.
I can tell you what I remember from it.
Yeah, okay. Take it away, Edith.
I remember we unloaded the cow and kind of walked her into her stall, and then I turned around, and exactly like Mike described, I saw just like a big floor filled with all of these animals, and in my mind I remember it being so silent. I don't know, I just remember them quietly like just looking at me, and then when Mike told me they were all going to be sent to slaughter, I just he told me that the blood just drained from my face, and he said, the first time here is really difficult for everybody. That's what I remember Mike saying. Mike, you told the story of like your son Rowan and his first time at the slaughterhouse, and yeah, I remember. I think that was definitely the first and last time that I went there. He didn't bring me back, and it was also the last time I ever even thought about eating any animal products.
Yeah. So that was it for you. That was it. You were then you're working for a cattle farmer who as a vegan.
And then he
Exactly, which was
gave me the opportunity to at least have this idea that if I didn't want to kill the cows, I just asked Edie. I says, if I didn't want to kill, I saw her at the market. I said, if I didn't want to kill my cows, I says, do you think we could get donations or something to feed them? And I said, I'll feed them, and they can just live out their days. And she said, well, let's make a little video and ask the world. And well,
and then
then
imagine
you can just picture what happened. You know,
Yeah.
imagine my from my perspective getting that text of Mike saying, I have this crazy idea, I'll tell you at the market. And then when he tells me, I just thought like this is just like beyond anything I could have imagined. And I ran with it. The second it came out of his mouth, Mike, that. The second you said it, there's no
like a
way that was
whirlwind. Yeah.
it.
And the
Wow.
Full
video
steam
went
ahead.
wild. And within 7 days, we had every news outfit here at the farm.
Now, when
But
did
so
I
I
talk
thought
to y'all? Because at some point in there, I was on the phone with y'all. Was that?
that's the neat thing is that one of my customers at the market knew you, and she had a fancy iPhone that you could do these video things on, which I had never even known existed. And she phoned you up, and there's Renee, and I this is just it was sent by the universe above. It was supposed to happen because
Mm.
I'm an old farmer that did it all the old way, and this was just too weird of an idea to come from me, and I didn't think it out. I didn't have a family meeting. I didn't talk to my sons about it, who are going to get the farm. Um, I didn't really talk to the wife or anybody. I just had this idea, and it just went. And it was that's why I think it's an epiphany. It wasn't something I processed in my head. It was just meant to happen. And
Mm.
But we were on
and
the phone with y'all, you and Edith,
Well,
about what happened. I can't even remember how it all came to be.
well, when Mike first told me about his idea, the first person I thought of was you, Renee, because literally just a few months before that, I'd come across your video that had gone viral, and I thought, in my head, I thought, oh, like, should I send this to Mike? This is so crazy. But then I thought, nah, like nothing like that could ever happen here. There's just no way. And then, so when it actually did happen, you were the first person I thought of, and I sent you a message, and you were amazing. You got on the phone with me right away, and I remember you telling me, it's gonna be a roller coaster, and you're gonna have to ride that roller coaster. And that's exactly what it was. There was ups and downs, but it was amazing. It really was meant to be.
And then Mike
Mm.
got on the line, and it was just so
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just too wild. That's why I think it was supposed to happen. Even
Yeah.
with all the ups and downs and the malarkey we had to go through and the anguish. There was years of adjustment and anguish that we had to participate in. And Edith
Mm.
was there trying to calm us all down and bring it all down. And I remember
Mm.
writing about it. I wrote her a reference letter to get into Osgood Law School. And I talked about how she sat in between two feuding uh, members of family and was able to gentle us all down and to let it all ride out. And
Aw.
I often think that letter got her into law school. It wasn't that she had good marks.
You can take credit for
Amazing.
that, Mike.
I love it. Okay, well, we're going to come back to you two in just
There
a
we go.
second. I want
That's
the beautiful story and yeah, gosh, and as we were starting off here tonight before everybody joined us, we were talking and I was like, "Oh, Renee, you know Mike and Edith, and you talked to them," and then Jennifer's like, "I talked to Renee too when I was doing." Renee, we're calling you the godmother of former farmers here. Farmers become advocates. Yeah. And Edith, you're the spark. You're the spark. So I love it. Um, David, your story is a little different. So,
Yeah.
you're not the farmer, but somebody who was receiving on the receiving end of those cows that Mike, I'm not of the animals like people like Mike were bringing in. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, right. And that's it. I was an inspector, so my role was to monitor the animals coming in and take enforcement actions when necessary. But it all started, and first of all, I just want to say, like, amazing stories. Like, I'm still like, wow. Like Edith, you're a legend. Unbelievable. But yeah, so for me, it was my family. They immigrated from Portugal. The job that they were given was slaughterhouse jobs, which a lot of immigrants happen onto, or refugees or migrants. And they all worked in slaughterhouses. And so it was my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, my great aunt, my mom. She has quite a bit of a story to tell. And I didn't have a lot of ambition growing up. And so my grandfather always instilled this idea to me that I should look at a government job and all this stuff. And eventually I sort of followed my uncle into the same place that he worked in, and that was a slaughterhouse in Canada. And so I didn't really have any experience going in. I knew there was going to be something, but I was pretty naive, maybe still am. 19, I walked into a slaughterhouse, and yeah, I mean, I can't begin to tell you even just the first few moments of walking down to the kill floor and walking into the live receiving area, seeing the things that I did. So I honestly thought we had to eat animals, just like I'm pretty sure everyone else thought at some point. And obviously there's a long story beyond it, and I do share it often. And if somebody really wants to hear that story sometime, I can share it via video or something. But it took me some years. So I got really sick working in, and I'll get to that later. But I moved out of the slaughterhouse, and then I moved into an investigation unit. And so these are the cases of what you would call, I guess, criminal, maybe potentially, if it had gone to court. Maybe the government would go after these companies. So there would be files and files that would come on my desk, and I would see pictures, some video. There was a little bit of video back then, notes, and so these were the cases of extreme cruelty, and I couldn't handle it. It was driving me crazy seeing this, that people could be so monstrous to animals. And there was one event in particular that like I saw this picture and I couldn't make out the picture, and I don't want to be too graphic for people here, but there was a calf that was, a mother had given birth on a truck and the calf was no longer there. I won't get too graphic with that, but it was awful. It still sticks. I see it every single day, and from that moment, I went home to my partner. I said, I just don't want to be a part of this anymore. And she said, well, we'll just start eating vegetables, and that's all I knew what it was. I didn't know what veganism was. I didn't know that there was a philosophy behind it. I never in a million years thought I would be speaking on a panel to, a bunch of legends. And I didn't, it took me a lot of years to get here. It took me a long time to get here just because of fear about, speaking out in public, about how I would be received. I was worried I'd get attacked, and for some times you kind of do as an activist, you get a little bit of that, but yeah, it was a no-brainer after I learned what veganism was, and I knew I had this story to tell, and yeah, that's why I'm here today, and I will not stop until this is over. So
Oh, David,
yeah,
such a beautiful, heartbreaking but beautiful story. Thank you so much for being open and not only changing, but just going for it.
yeah,
David is just a dedicated activist, and it's just been beautiful to see your work. Oh, you wonderful people. Okay, so I wanna get a little bit more into the animals. We touched on them, but What do you think people should know about farmed animals, about chickens, about cows, about pigs, ducks, goats, any other animals who are raised for food? What might you share that might change people's mind about eating them? And
Well,
and Edith, I think I'd like to. Oh, sorry, did somebody was I was going to say Edith? Let's start with you.
Yeah. I'll share what surprised me the most
Yeah.
because I had never interacted too much with cows. I did a little bit when I was an intern, but not like in the way that we do as a sanctuary. But what surprised me most is that cows are amazing mothers. And I thought that was just that really touched something within me. I remember when I first came to film Mike when he had his whole epiphany and we filmed a video about what he was doing. There was that calf Hope who had just been born. Um, and one of the first things Mike said was, "Oh, be careful! Don't get too close to her because the whole herd is protecting her, not just her mom." So just the idea that cows are so nurturing, they really look out for each other, and they're such good moms. We've had cows at the farm who have like adopted other calves and let them drink their milk and will take care of them when they don't have a mother. So I thought that was really beautiful. And when I share that with people, like when they come for tours and they get to witness that, like the bond between a mother and her calf, that really speaks to them. So I think it's really powerful, something that I didn't know before. And yeah, Mike showed me that. So
That's beautiful. And I think one of the things that people don't get a lot is in the dairy industry. That is one of the bonds that get broken really early on. The calves are taken from their mothers almost immediately after birth, and that's definitely what turned me vegan. Is seeing that. That was the moment that I turned. Was seeing that baby get torn away and that mother just bellowing. So thank you, Edith, for bringing that to our attention about what amazing mothers cows are. Jennifer, what's something that you'd like people to know about animals that are farmed?
Well, we ran cow calf for decades. My papa did it when I was little, and then my dad, did cow calf, and then me and Rodney. And of course, they're good mothers. I mean, that's the kind of cow you want. Is one when you're in cow calf, you want a mama that's going to raise a good baby.
Mhm.
And
And that's when you're raising them for beef, so it's a different
yes,
situation there. Yeah.
yes, you raise them up to weaning weight, and then you
Hmm.
send them, and you hope the prices are good and that the calves
Yeah.
grow off good and all things work. And so, but of course, they're good mothers, and we used to see that as like a good thing for business.
Mm.
And being in it for so long on that end of it, and they're like, cogs or widgets in this system. Like Renee said, they're just the herd out in the field. They're not individuals. They had numbers in their ears. And so then when after we made our switch and we went vegan and we stopped breeding, it was a situation where we had already bred. Now, all the mamas had been bred because we were getting ready to, we had overstocked the pastures. We were getting ready to make a lot of money and rebuild our herd. We had just bought into all new stock. So all these mothers were bred before we went vegan. So I got to be with them while they were giving birth with this heart of, I'm not touching this. I'm not interfering in any of this, and to witness it for what it genuinely is. And they're so highly intelligent, and they're so emotionally maternal. They just have these maternal energy instincts, and to really just witness that fully for myself, it was like I knew it all along. And even my mamaw, generations back, I remember her saying, I just hate hearing those mamas cry for their babies. I just hate hearing it. but it was just part of it. It just, I mean, you know, you're in it for the business part. It's we're not keeping them for pets. It's and so I and also with the chickens, I you know they were you're talking 25,000 chickens in one building, and so there's no individuals. There's no individuals.
Yeah.
And whenever after we went vegan, we had some yard birds, and some of the mamas laid eggs and hatched them unbeknownst to us. And to watch that play out naturally for me, for them to show their babies how to eat, show them how to find food, hover over them, you know, cover them with their wings, nurture them like that. I mean, you talk about healing for me, because it was like, if I don't touch it and mess with it, if it's not in the industry, if it's not being manipulated, then this is what is beautiful. This is how it really is. And it's they're not just widgets on a conveyor belt in crates and then dumped in the floor, and then, you know, feed conversion at you know, and all of that. There actually are individuals, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think people really don't get chickens, you know, like it's really hard to get, like when we do campaigns around chickens, it's hard to get people to care. But, you know, for me, the first time I heard that, you know, when little chicks are in their eggs still, the mama will cluck softly to sing to them, and they'll actually chirp back from the egg. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and also chickens will fight to the death. They'll go against a fox to
Yes, they
protect
will.
their family,
They
right?
will.
So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, people just don't get that. So, David, how about you? What's one thing you would love people to know about animals,
Well,
about
I
living
think there's
animals?
just so many things, right? I think chickens can see in more colors than we can. They can purr, as well as cows. They can play soccer. I've played footy with a couple of cows. Maybe rescues, maybe not. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. But yeah, I mean, they're all individuals, right? And they can be just as sneaky as humans. So, like, I was recently at a sanctuary with a bunch of pigs, and I think there was like 40 of them. I think the place was called The Retreat. I'm in the UK right now. And wow, like they come up to you and they know they're like there's the human, right? We're coming to see the human, and they're either going to give me like a carrot or an apple or a belly rub. It's one or the other. They know
It's
how to
all good
get you,
stuff.
right? Because you're coming to see them. They're like, all right, you got to clean up my poo, and you got to come over here and either give me a carrot or not. And then they'll size you up, they'll look at you, they'll sniff you, and they'll have big teeth like this. And then if you're not giving them a carrot, they're just going to lay down and be like, "Give me a belly rub." So they know what they're doing. They're really cool.
Yeah,
All of them are
absolutely.
individuals, right?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
remember seeing three pigs after the Iowa floods that were at the farm sanctuary in New York State. And they were piglets when the flood happened, and they weren't related, but they were brought in together. And they would not sleep except for their snouts touching each other. All three of them would have to touch snouts while they slept. And if one would move, they'd all move to readjust so that their snouts could touch while they they slept. So
That's
yeah,
adorable.
yeah, it was really sweet. Mike,
Well,
what would you like
we
people to
talked
know?
about how individual all of these beasts are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The entire herd, everyone is different, and you can fall in love with them or you can dislike the odd one.
yeah, just like humans.
I mean, we even chickens, you know, I mean, I've had friends, people here that have brought chickens here because the city didn't let them have them anymore. And the anguish that poor woman had saying goodbye to her little hens. She loved them. And um, I think about this. I mean, I had a friend when I was up northern Ontario. We lived in a little log cabin by the lake, and she was given a pig that weighed a pound and a half, a little runt pig, and we raised it in the house, and it never made a mess in the house ever. And we had Malamutes and hound dogs, and it would fight with the Malamutes to get close to the wood stove, and it never lost. And it was such a character. Living with an animal like a hog is just so odd. Um, but it fit right in. It had a place. It never caught. It did root a bit. It did. We did have to keep our floor a bit clean. It was a bit demanding verbally sometimes, but it would hop up on the bed beside me, and I'd have to shoo it off. And people don't think of a pig as a house pet, but personality huge, and you don't think about that when you're ordering your bacon sandwich. And I've often told people, I says, what's the difference between a litter of pigs, a baby calf, or a litter of golden retrievers? There's not a whole lot of difference. You can get to love any of them just the same. And with the herd of cows out there, there's cows out there are just my buddies, and other ones that don't like me. And yeah, and some that we have to watch for still, even though we spoil them rotten. I can't turn my back on the odd one because she wants to grind my bones to dust. And Edith knows who she is.
We still love
The
her.
rules are you
Yeah,
don't go out
just
to the herd without a stick.
sounds like a neighbor of mine.
There you go.
Oh, I love it,
Certainly,
Mike.
they've all got different personalities,
Of
and they're
course.
all lovable.
Yeah,
Well,
love
most of
it.
them are lovable.
Yes, exactly.
I
Again,
can go from
just like humans. I think probably there's a better lovability chance with those animals than with a lot of humans. Renee, how about you? What would you like people to know about animals that are typically raised for food?
Well, the biggest shift for me was, I always think about something that Wayne Dyer used to say all the time, and it's, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And you know, when I went vegan on the cattle ranch, it was on Halloween 2014, and the very next day, November 1st, it was really foggy. I woke up, I went outside, and I was looking around, and I was looking at all the cows, and I was in a state of like like I just woke up from a dream and I was reborn. I I was seeing things totally different, and I looked out and I said, "This is no longer a cattle ranch. This is going to be a safe haven for these animals." And what changed for me was that shift when I went vegan. It was like the entire everything shifted on the outside, like whatever, and it caused me to see animals different. You know, um, I remember the first call we had about a big Brahmin. Her name is Cinnamon. Y'all may have seen her on our website, Cinnamon.
Cinnamon's beautiful.
She was getting ready to go to slaughter. She was 5 years old. A bona fide, certified, registered Brahmin. With papers. Um, and the mama and the daughter called me frantic. We were on a story on the local news, ABC, or one of those with Deborah Wrigley. I'll never forget it. And they had come out and they'd done a big story on us. And this mama and daughter of this breeder, this Brahmin breeder, saw us on TV and called us crying frantically, which I don't know how many calls I've had like that. Mom, then my daddy's fixing to send, Cinnamon to the slaughterhouse. She's only 5, and I love her. Da da da. Can y'all help? Can you take her? Well, one thing led to another, and that cow was at our house. Uh, I don't know if it was that day or the next day, but she was there, and that cow, when she came off that trailer, big tears. That people always want to say cows don't cry. Oh yes, they do. I've seen it with my eyes. These babies crying, mama's crying. It's horrible to witness. True tears, true agony, true grief, true guttural, like unbelievable grief when mamas lose their babies, just like you would if you had your children stolen from you. And when that cow got off that trailer, it was like spiritually, it changed the entire ground. Something about cinnamon was so and is, and these animals, I think cows in and by and of themselves, they're very spiritual. There is something deeply spiritual about cows. You could you can go and hug cinnamon or any of these other ones, lay your chest on them, and it's like they will take your pain, and you can feel it leave you. And I'm not just saying this like making this shit up. Sorry if I shouldn't say a cuss word, but
We swear all the time. Don't worry.
this is true. And I can tell you so many stories like this with the cows. With a turkey named Seely, she lived to be 11 years old. And, Seely, God, that turkey, personality. These animals have so much personality. I can't tell you how many times I've had to tube feed Seely because of one reason or the other. She had, all kind of issues and wouldn't eat. And I had to learn how to tube feed this turkey. Uh, you know, and God, just her personhood, the way she liked to be with you, to be in the room. If she didn't like something, by God, she would grab your bracelet and pull it right off, and the beads would go everywhere. You know, and she was just that way. And then, I can remember one time, uh, we had a chicken. I was early vegan, and this chicken had a problem walking. She was limping. And I used to be a massage therapist a long time ago. And so instinctively, I picked her up. Her name was Dixie Chick. And I picked her up and I started massaging her little leg. Like the leg that you would eat if it was a drumstick, that part of the leg. I started massaging her little leg. And I, I, I started like welling up inside with so much grief. And I remember just crying out loud while I was massaging her because for the first time I realized when I was massaging her leg that's I used to eat them legs without
Mm.
even thinking twice about it. And I can tell you story after story. You got to the only way to know it though is to see it different. Unless you see things different, you never see things different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm. Renee, oh my God, that just really hit me in the heart when I think about all those animals I ate for so many years.
yeah.
Mm. Spend our lives trying to make it up to them. Folks, just a little side note. I really I want you to listen, in this panel for what I like to call back pocket anecdotes to use in your own activism. Not all of you have been able to be on a farm, and many of us don't have access to a slaughterhouse. But sharing the accounts of farmers and ag workers that you've heard from firsthand can just be so valuable in your advocacy. So just really listen to those stories that resonate with you. Really take note of them and keep them in your back pocket. And say, oh, I remember this ex rancher named Renee and the story she told, and you can share that. So, folks, I know a lot of you ran smaller farms, but factory farms produce 99% of the meat, dairy, and eggs in North America. What would you say are some of the aspects of standard farming right now and slaughter practices in this more industrialized animal ag system? It's very different than the ag system of our grandparents. And what do you think would shock or upset the general public that most people wouldn't know? Jennifer, let's start with you because I don't think a lot of people have a sense of what broiler chicken farming is like. And you had by the tens of thousands, and you were a pretty small farmer. So tell us a little bit about that.
You're right. People don't understand. When I moved here in 1987, we had three chicken houses that had a 65,000 capacity. There was a 30,000, a 20,000, and a 15,000. And when I would tell people that, like I would go visit my cousins and they would be like, "What? Like that's so many chickens." And like, where do you think your chickens are coming from? They're coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And It's just how fast they grow, for one thing. Is
Because they're bred that way. Yeah.
they are.
Hmm.
In 6 weeks, you hope to have at least a 5 pound chicken in 6 weeks. And that's so fast. And they are crowded in together. Every day, there's dead ones to pick up if you want to raise good chickens and have, a healthy, clean environment, because they are all in there in their poop. And when we get them when they're little, they go in half a house because they only take up half a house, and you don't want to heat the whole house. You're saving money's making money. Yeah. And then you have to turn them out into the full house when they get, usually within the first week, they're going into the full house. Sometimes in the wintertime, we would hold them longer because we didn't want to have to run propane on the other end of the house. So we would hold them longer, which meant, and look, we did everything that we could as farmers to be, to work with as much integrity, to give those chickens, a good life. We were down there all the time. And,
but this industry is so it's so set against, especially chicken farmers in the States, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, in order to have a good flock of chickens, a lot of them had to be culled, which every day Rodney went in there and killed chickens. And I couldn't ever do it. I couldn't ever cull them. And Rodney is very, not protective, but he honors my sensitive heart. And he never expected me to do that. So we would do he would do one half of the chicken house and I would do the other. And then the next day we would switch. That way he could cull this side. And then I didn't have to, I only picked up the ones that were all dead, and they were there every day. And I heard, after we went vegan, I heard one of the advocates that came here to the farm, he said that Rodney had done that job so much that it was just like folding socks. And it really genuinely, I was like, you're right. There wasn't any kind of connection to an individual. You're doing your job. You're making sure that house has healthy birds that are going to go to the slaughterhouse, because, you're going to get docked on your pay, if you send chickens that are subpar to the plant. So it's just a matter of doing a really good job. Being a chicken farmer is killing them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that people know that. Chicken farmers do it all day, every day. And when they're babies, I mean, and they have a sheet on the inside of the control rooms that tells you exactly how to kill the chickens. There's a procedure to do it, to just separate their spine. And it's just, when they're babies, there's so many of them. I remember that I would take a counter, one of those little clicker counters with me, because otherwise I would have to dump the bucket of chickens out and pick up all those nasty dead baby chickens and recount them. Hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. And so I would take a counter, and every time I'd pick up a chicken, put it in the bucket, I would click. So then I would have my amount at the end of my round.
Jennifer, yeah, for somebody like you that was drawn to farming because you loved animals, the irony of that, huh? And
yes.
I'm sure that's the same, for a lot of farmers, but they get in over their heads before they realize what it's all about. Laura was just asking, why do they need to be killed? They are sick, and I think one of the things that's important for people to know is, you say healthy chickens, but it's basically chickens that just get past the okay point. They're not healthy and thriving animals,
no.
But they're, can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, there's 25,000 in one house, 25,000 chickens. And so they're coming off of an assembly line, basically. Some of them are going to have deformities. They try to clean them up at the hatchery as much as possible, but they end up, we have to take out the sick ones. And within that first week, the the ones that are weakened or, culls, they're gonna just die off and have to be picked up. And then they also grow so quickly that they break down in their legs. Sometimes they would flip over on their backs and could not get up. And those birds, they wore the feathers and got blisters on their backs. If you walked that chicken house and that bird flipped over when you walked past and you didn't come in there until the next day, it was there for 24 hours laying on that chicken litter. And it can't go to the slaughterhouse. It's out of there. It's done. And plus it's laid there so long kicking and trying and struggling that it's not a viable bird anymore.
Yeah.
And it sounds terrible to talk about it this way, but that's literally how,
No,
that's the
that's what we're
verbiage
trying
we
to get.
used.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the
Yeah.
verbiage we used whenever we were in the industry. And, like I said, there is no individual in there. They are all just, as a matter of fact, they make sure that no colored birds come to the farm from the hatchery, because if there is an individual, for one thing, the other birds might cannibalize it. But for another thing, they don't want the farmers like picking out an individual, because they know that it does something to our hearts to know that one bird is gone. Yeah.
Wow, isn't that something?
Yeah.
And just to be clear, because sometimes this is used as an excuse in the industry. Oh, well, chickens, if you don't, do this, they'll cannibalize each other. They cannibalize each other because they're so confined
Yes.
that they got nowhere to go, and they go crazy. How any individual is going to go crazy in that kind of environment, right? So,
Yes.
oh, Jennifer, thank you so much for that. David, what do you want to share about like what in the slaughterhouse system would shock or upset the
I
general public? I mean,
mean,
there isn't a lot that wouldn't, but what do you want to
we
share?
we could literally go all night, right? If we
Right.
want to stick around for 3 hours, we could probably go through a lot. So one thing, like, I just want people to be clear of, like, my role as a government inspector, I think was more or less a token position, just for import or export reasons. And just to make it so that the companies seem that they were doing, right by Canadians or whatever. There's also the pet food industry. A lot of people aren't aware that the so-called inedible products that go into like bins and stuff like that, that goes to rendering facilities and that goes to your pet food. So I'd highly encourage people to really look into their pet food. Um, I can't even begin to tell you some of the things and the smells and what a rendering facility looks like. So that's something you can look into. Also, most of the animals that I believe now probably are going into gas chambers. So a lot of the industries move to gas chambers as far as chickens and hens are concerned, as well as pigs. So a lot of people might not be aware of that. Maybe one other thing is every single animal that people are eating are genetically engineered, are selectively bred to grow as fast as possible. So this wreaks havoc on all of their system.
Mm. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Edith, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I guess I'll add a little bit specifically about egg-laying hens, because a lot of people are actually surprised when they come to the sanctuary and they see that we rescue egg-laying hens, and they don't really understand why there's a need for them to be rescued. And what really shocked me about the industry is, well, first of all, the vast majority of egg-laying chickens are in cruel tiny cages their entire lives, maybe the size of a sheet of paper, where they can't spread their wings, they can't forage on grass. And anyone who's interacted with the chickens on any sanctuary, but I know in our sanctuary we're really attached to the chickens, and it's always so beautiful to see them forage on the grass and how much they enjoy it, especially in the springtime after the snow melts. So just the thought of them being crammed into tiny cages their whole lives is so heartbreaking. And even in cage-free farms, often it's just massive indoor industrial filthy buildings where they're just packed inside. So yeah, there's a lot of cruelty in the egg industry. But what's actually interesting is that most of our hens they don't come from factory farms. They actually come from small scale egg farmers or backyard farming operations, because as soon as they start getting a little less productive, or don't lay enough eggs to be profitable, or to like give enough eggs to the people who live there, they just get sent to slaughter. So the few lucky ones will then get to live out their lives at sanctuaries like ours. But I haven't really come across a situation where you can humanely or kindly raise hens for eggs.
Thank you, Edith. Um, Mike, anything that you want to
Well,
add?
this talk about factory farms is so foreign to me.
Yeah.
I think in all of our career in my family, we struggled to do the very best for the animals, even though their end was disturbing. We always tried. I mean, I always had my chickens were always free range, and that meant we fed the foxes and wolves a little bit. Um, we tried so hard to meet their needs when they were there. And I
Yeah.
was always disturbed by the hearing of factory farms. So we tried so hard to do our very best to give them a good and happy life while they were there. And
Hmm.
I mean, but yeah, the factory farm stuff is just right out of my element. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about it. Um, I never wanted to know anything about it. And all of my
Hmm.
friends that are farmers are all sort of the smaller end ones, the ones that uh, they care. Um, when their calves are born, there's a video on Facebook. They love them, and they're if you listen to them close enough, they're jealous that I don't have to ship mine off.
Wow.
Because a lot of the people get into farming because they love cows or pigs, chickens. They're not always there for business. Um, I mean, we needed them to pay the bills at one point, but we got into it because we loved them, and
Mm.
it was the only way economically is cows are not cheap to keep is to have someone pay the bills.
Yeah.
Um, this is the hard press of it is that um, when I was in the business is when the tax bill came in, I had to walk around the barnyard figure out who was going to pay it, and
Mm.
I'm so glad I don't have to do that now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Mike and Renee might be able to relate to this too. I have quite a few farmers in my family, and I remember my cousin telling me, because he was mostly a grain farmer, but had 100 head of cattle, on the side, and he said, like I care so much for these cows, when I have them, like I really take care of them, and then I ship them off to a feedlot, and I know it's hell on earth for them, for that last couple of years for them to, be finished. And I could just see like the heartbreak in his eyes, like he's doing the best he can on his small farm, and then they're getting, put into this big industrial system on feedlots that are hell on earth, and then sent to slaughterhouses that are hell on earth, So, Renee, anything that you'd like people to know about farming these days, industrial farming?
Yeah, it's again, it's that perception shift, when we say we love animals and we kill them, it's like, oh, I love animals, so I want to get into farming and kill animals and eat them. Oh, it's love. It's like once you start thinking about things like from that perspective, it ain't love.
Mhm.
What we really love, and this is my point of view, is we love the land. We love our connection to the animals. And then what happens is we have to do the unthinkable that we don't want to do because that is what we're taught is the right thing to do. So it's about belief systems. We live in belief systems that are totally screwed up and backwards. I talk about it all in my book, but more on that. But I'm just so grateful that when my husband used to say all the time, these cows only have one bad day. And I used to challenge him, and I used to say all the time, they have a whole lot more than one bad day. Every day that they have to live, where they have to risk, losing their children. And God help me, if when my mother hears me call a baby calf a child, she turns blue. That is not a child. That's a calf. It's a child. It's their children. And again, it's the way we look at things. So these slaughterhouses don't look at these animals like families. They're not a family to them, and so I see them as families. And you know, cell barns, cell barns. I've said this over and over. I was interviewed on an op for something, on I can't remember what news article it was. This undercover agent was going into cell barns, and you know, if we could stop calves, cows from going into cell barns, we would stop the industry as far as cows go. If there's no sale barns, if there's no auctions, if there's no buying and selling, but boy, let me tell you, that is the holy grail right there. You talk about factory farming. Well, where does the factory farming uh, production of the units come from? Sale barns, where they're bought and sold, end up in feedlots, and then end up in the food supply. It is these, and it's boy, you try to take down a cell barn, you'll be up against big time problems because the tradition, the culture of these cattle ranchers, their loyalty goes so deep. The preachers hang out there. They hang out there and they have their hamburgers. They buy and sell animals, just like they did in the old days when, if you've seen Crawspiracy, you know all about it. That's the way they did. Animal agriculture today is the flip side of ritual slaughter back in Bible days. It is the same thing. We have ritualized animal suffering to the point where we accept it. And it's so wrong. And now what's happening is AI is coming on the scene, which if you ain't doing AI, you need to be, because if you're not, if we don't stay up to par on AI, then we're going to fall way behind, because the slaughterhouses, the factory farms are using AI to kill animals faster. They don't care. It is all about production, assembly, and this is happening right before our very eyes. So if we care about animals, we have to learn how to use AI. And so, I have a whole lot I could say about that, but it's in my book. I talk a lot about it.
I love getting you fired up, Renee. I love
Thank you.
it. Okay, so we have a bunch of folks here that advocate for animals on a regular basis. I want to know, is there anything so one of the things that I personally don't love is I don't love people going after the individual farmers as opposed to the systems. Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like that, well, you're hearing about all the different experiences on all the levels. There's no evil. There's no like evil here. It's just, being raised in a certain culture, with certain belief systems. And so I just really want to get your input as to what should we keep in mind when it comes to our messaging around animal farmers, slaughterhouse workers, and, the animal ag industry. What are some things that you would like to see change? Like David, let's maybe start with you, because there's a lot of villainizing that goes on with slaughterhouse workers, and most of those slaughterhouse workers are coming from some of society's most vulnerable populations.
Yeah, it's a great topic, and I often go to slaughterhouses. I'm filming there. Oftentimes, I'm just trying to keep the focus on the animals, and occasionally, we're having conversations with the slaughterhouse workers. More recently, we've had a few actually cross the lines just by us vocalizing what's happening at these places, talking to the individuals. I think it's really a powerful way to advocate for the animals. But again, we have to look at our own selves, right? We weren't all vegan at one point. We weren't all in that position at one point. We were all in that position at one point to not know. And I think oftentimes people aren't aware that workers are coming from sometimes really awful situations, war. There were Syrian refugees put into slaughterhouses in the United States. There's immigrants, refugees. It's not like any child's dream to want to work in one of those places. And I think it's like, if we can plant a couple seeds here and there, I think you're going to get further. And if someone's going to come at you, then I guess maybe, you got to figure out what you want to do for that. But I think like there are like the low hanger fruit kind of thing where you can just talk to some people that just might like maybe some of the workers have never been on the kill floor. Maybe they've seen the animals go in and maybe they're not sure, right? Maybe they don't know the exact process. But if you're like, watch the Dominion movie, watch a documentary called Pignorant, or you throw out those little seeds, right? You're just trying to plant seeds. It's the same with farmers. I mean, I talk to farmers a lot. I do the live streams. I talk to them all the time. I always say, what if, what if, what if, plant that seed, make them think about it a little bit. Maybe it doesn't happen today. Maybe it doesn't happen a year from now, but 5 years from now, maybe they wake up one day.
Thank you, David.
Planting
Yeah.
the seed and the gentle talk. I've
Yeah, yeah. Tell us
always
about
said
that,
that
Mike.
I hear the whisper in my ear, but I don't. If someone yells at me, I don't hear nothing. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think that's something to take from this is when I'm leaning over the fence talking to a neighbor, um, just nice and gentle, and they'll remember it. But when you have a hardcore confrontation, there's nothing gained from it. And I had a neighbor that had activists go onto his farm and spray paint his barn and cut his fences. And I actually met him at the feed store. We were both buying electric fence equipment, and he was buying it for the activists, and I was buying it to keep my cows out of a new field. And I didn't tell him what I did because he was a big tough guy and he was really angry. And uh, but he didn't hear nothing that day. He's angry, and I don't think he's ever going to calm down. And he wasn't ever going to change his ways. He was going to fight. And I didn't see a lot of productivity in spray painting his barn and making that man really angry. Um, but we're different, um, you know.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Sometimes, I think it's important for us to know that when we're yelling and being aggressive with people, they're going to shut down like a bar at 2 a.m. Like there's no getting through to them at that point. So you're right, Mike. I think you've probably inspired a lot of people just by being an example. Yeah.
If I can add one
Yeah, Edith,
one
please.
small thing to that, I think what Mike does really well and what's really beautiful and unique about having um, a farm that turns into a sanctuary is that you can really bridge that gap between the two worlds. And someone like you, Renee, and Tommy, and like Mike, someone who's been on that side and understands, can have the conversation easily with both sides. And Mike, you always tell me this, how cool it is to speak to people, to speak to the hardcore animal rights activists and then speak to the farmers and be able to drop some truth to both sides and help both sides see each other's perspectives. And that's the only way that we're going to make a change and find common ground, is if we meet each other where we're at, and speak respectfully. So yeah, if I can just vouch for how well Mike does that.
hmm Renee, you actually have are involved or run a rancher advocacy program that helps other animal farmers take up plant farming. So what's that been like, and how do you communicate to those folks? Just again, for anybody around here that is dealing, directly with farmers, any advice?
Oh gosh. Advice. Well, I will tell you that the Rancher Advocacy Program started, and thank you for asking me about that. It has evolved quite a bit. When I first started it back in 2000 and I don't know, late 16, I think we officially launched it in 2017. Um, it was I launched it to because I wanted to transition hearts and minds, cattle ranchers' hearts and minds. Never once did it occur to me that I wanted to, help farmers find another way to make a living. It was about because we figured out, Tommy and I, how to make a go of it. We became a nonprofit, and I started fundraising and started, getting members, and so our way of transitioning was, we became a nonprofit, and here we are 11 years later, still thriving, because we've, blessed, work our butt off. We transitioned our cattle ranch to a nonprofit sanctuary. Not all cattle ranchers and farmers, animal farmers, chicken farmers, they don't all have the same, skills, mindsets, technique, they just don't. So what started coming at me was farmers, cattle ranchers, chicken farmers. Uh, they would call me, they would message me. I would get messages all the time, and I'm just this girl over here that went crazy on the cattle ranch, and I don't have all the answers, but I was trying to help because in my heart of hearts, all I wanted to do is try to help people, and when I started figuring out, when they would say stuff to me like, well, how am I going to make a living? And and it would just like hit me like square in the head. It was like, God, not everybody can become a sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's expensive to have a
Yeah.
sanctuary. And it never ends, ever. It never, ever, ever. So many people become sanctuaries and you don't see them anymore.
No,
They don't
they
last.
they don't understand.
And so the Rancher Advocacy Program evolved into a program where we started helping other farms. I mean, we've had some, we had, some farms. I mean, Jennifer's on here. Her story, her and Rodney's story, is on our Rowdy Girl documentary. We tried hard to transition their farm, and so I mean, it's out for the world to see. Sometimes things just don't happen. You can't. What needs to happen is the government needs to step in. We can't rely on what? We can't rely on just private
Charities. Hmm.
funding.
Hmm.
All this private funding, it just can't go on and on and on. And it's a shame that farms like Jennifer and Rodney's and others that want to transition, that that they don't get really the step up they deserve, because
Hmm.
every farmer that wants to transition, that wants to change, that wants to create a better way of life for themselves other than farming animals, they all deserve a step up. And in our country, they don't get that step up. It is, and that's why I tell everybody that I know, everybody, I talk about this in my book. If you want to do what you can to help farmers transition, get involved in your government. Become a staffer there. If you're vegan, become a staffer, become a lobbyist, do any and everything you can to get on the inside of our government, where the legs and the tentacles of the eighth generation cattle rancher and farmers are. That's where they live. That's where they thrive. They're in our government, you know. And so, the Rancher Advocacy Program has evolved into, we inspire, we educate, we motivate. I mean, we started the whole farm transition movement, y'all, and there's really, it's not easy. It's not a one size fits all. Hey, I think I'm just going to transition to farm today. It is hard.
Yeah.
We lived it. Jennifer knows.
Hmm.
We lived it.
Yeah,
Tough
absolutely.
stuff.
And I mean, there's a novelist and a Slaughterhouse journalist named Upton Sinclair who said it is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. So, it's really hard when there's no way out. Like, I bet there's a lot of people, a lot of farmers who feel pretty trapped in
They
in
are trapped.
continuing to do what they're doing. So, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Jennifer, last word on this to you. Anything around our messaging around farmers that we should keep in mind?
Well, this is going to be really personal for me because I love my farming community. I love farmers. They raised me, they raised my children. You're not going to find better people on this planet. And it is not the farmers that are driving this industry.
Right.
It is not. And they don't deserve. It would be like, berating the factory workers that are, producing fast fashion or something. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the consumers, it is the
Yeah.
government, it's this systemic belief system that we have to have animal protein. It's and it is not the farmers. We're not out here going, we just, really enjoy going and working in a stinky chicken house, and it's not something that we would choose. And as a matter of fact, a century ago, this area was raising berries, and there was a cannery in town. And when the chicken industry came in and started offering these farmers contracts, and it was a way for them to get out of poverty, and they took it. And they're good people. They are the heart of this nation, and they are not averse to change. They just don't have a bridge to cross. And believe me and Renee, and we tried to build a bridge, and there is no blueprint. It was a mess. I cannot tell you the long, sad, confusing depression that I went through, not knowing what to do. And when I was in the middle of that, I knew that this is why people don't change. It was so hard. I was begging God to let my feet land somewhere that felt familiar to me. And these farmers, this is their life. It's their livelihood. They love being out on the land and with their cows and on the fence rows. They don't want to live in the cities and sell insurance. This is their life. I mean, the old timers say you either love it or you hate it. And we loved it. We loved it. And you can't go to someone who loves their job and who loves their livelihood and say, you're doing something wrong, or, or confront them with, self-righteousness.
Saying you're evil. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I myself, when I first went vegan, I felt very self-righteous. And I was posting stuff.
Don't we all?
Like, I was so upset that the whole world did not go vegan with me, that I could not convince people to do it with me. It was really, really a struggle. And these farmers are precious. They are being exploited for their goodness and for their willingness to work. You cannot imagine the amount of work that goes into raising these birds. And we do it because it's something that the world needs. I mean, like, that's what we thought. The world needs chicken. I mean, as much as we need oxygen, that's what I believe, that we had to have chicken. So, I mean, like, it's a dirty job that nobody wants to do it, but me and Rodney were doing it, and these good people are out here doing it.
Yeah.
And they don't need shit from vegans. Okay.
Yeah.
They need a bridge to cross.
Yeah.
That's what they need. And they will do it. And if you offered them a contract to grow tomatoes or pumpkins or watermelon, anything, they would do it. If you could show them, here's the contract, like the chicken companies do it, they would take it. Believe me, they would much rather be raising mushrooms or tomatoes or something rather than walking into a stinky chicken house every day.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Jennifer. And I think that's just so important for folks to know. Most farmers think that what they're doing is necessary, and when you think something is necessary, you can kind of rationalize it however you need.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, you all have just touched my heart so much. I think we can say the same of the community here. Everybody is just in love with y'all. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I just want to see we're going to just share how people can sort of follow you. We're going to put Jennifer, we've got some of your information just so people can follow you on social media. Same with David here. But David, you have something else you want to share that to direct people towards?
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't find the link, but I just want to make everybody aware. Our amazing activist friend, Jenny McQueen, is going to be on trial, ridiculously on trial, I might add, May 11th to the 14th in Toronto. So if you're around, please come and join us. There's a Facebook link somewhere. I'm sure you can find it. And yeah, send her a message too. I'm sure she would appreciate the support.
Thank you, David. Edith and Mike, you got a special event coming up. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, it's something that every farmer that has cattle had a little private outing in the spring. When you're able to open the pasture the first time, all the families would always be there. We'd open the gate and call the cows to their first pasture, and you get to see the joy that they experience. And it was one of the first events we had, and it was a hit, um, because you can't miss it. Those cows are expressing joy as cows do. Well, once in a while they just run out and eat, but usually they're buck and bronc and thrash around, and it's wonderful. And it's on Mother's Day this year, and it's just when the grass comes on, and they're already standing down at the gate telling me that, Mike, it's ready, but it's not ready. But yeah, that's
I
a big
just dropped
deal.
the
I mean,
link in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah,
letting
sorry.
out the cows 2026. That's the link. Thank you, Edith. So
oh,
yeah,
okay. Edith will connect you to everything. You can't, but that's
amazing.
a big one. But we have other ones too. I mean, I don't think we have as many as we used to, but we have one in the fall where I pull them on hay rides and stuff, and we just talk about what we're doing on the farm this year. Whether we're planting rows of trees for wildlife habitat, or doing things to make it's not always the animals we lock up that we
Right.
have to help. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the meadowland nesting birds, or the little birds and stuff. We
I
have
have
to.
a rescue possum. I have a
Yes,
Oh,
you
my
possum.
dog killed a
do.
possum a
Yes.
few weeks ago.
I
But
love him so
we
much.
we never had possums before, like 15 or 20 years ago, and they're starting to come back,
I'm
and
obsessed.
they're a little
I've
treat,
seen.
you know. So we've got to provide habitat for some of these.
Yes.
I don't like putting up habitat for tomcats and stuff. That's
Yes,
I've got a
absolutely.
I've got a tomcat on the farm that's making a mess, but um, they bought a bag of food for him, so he's going to become a fat tomcat now.
Okay, so we've got that in, and we also have the link for your sanctuary. And Mike, if they come to your sanctuary, they're going to get to meet you in the flesh, are they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's worth the price of
After winter,
admission
there's
right
always a
there.
little more flesh.
Excellent. And we're going to get Renee. Renee, you've got such big things happening. Please share and tell people where they can find them.
Well, this is called an advanced reader copy of my book. Okay, it actually publishes on June 25th, and it drops. Bloomsbury is publishing it, and they're the publisher that published Harry Potter. So we're really
Wow.
excited that we've got such a esteemed publisher that is taking us on this journey. It's taken me 5 years to get here. I got great people on my team. We are scheduling an entire book tour all over the country. Right
Yay.
now, we're starting it in Toronto at Ava. I'll
I
have a
love
booth
it.
there. And this is my first time to have a booth there. And so I hope to see David and y'all all,
Absolutely.
Kimberly in
Yes.
Toronto. Y'all come see me there. And then also we're going to be anybody that's out there in Austin. We're going to have a big party at the biggest bookstore in Texas. It's called Book People, and that's on June 26th. I'll be there speaking and signing books. So if anybody's from Austin, but then the other cool thing is the documentary Rowdy Girl is, gosh, y'all, it is now on PBS streaming all over the United States.
Amazing.
And it's on World TV too, which means you can get it anywhere. It's on Apple TV. It's on something called Guide Docs, so you can see it in any country. So go to rowdygirlfilm.org for that. And then there's other things in the works I can't really talk about right now, but I am so blessed that our story has become the impetus for so much change. And I'm grateful that in my 68-year-old body that I still have the strength and the stamina to continue to get out there and do whatever I need to do to be a voice for these animals, for farmers. It's so vitally necessary that we use our voice for the change, because nothing changes till something changes. And when we actually become the change, we cannot help but radiate that from within. And nothing gets in my way, nothing stands in my way, because there is nothing in the way. Anything that I think is in the way is me. If I have a thought that anything is in my way, it's only me thinking there's something in my way. I always figure out either a way through or around, and everybody has a story, and everybody's deserves to be told. And I'm always here to inspire, to motivate, and to encourage in any way I can to help any of you. So thank
Oh
you.
man, thank you, Renee. I want a little bit of Renee juice, to put into my veins, and Mike too. I want like Mike, like you too, man. I like, oh, the force is coming out of you. You're all, I mean, all incredible.
We're gonna keep
Okay.
Renee. We're gonna keep Renee in Canada, I think.
I know, we're
I'd love
not
to
letting
Yeah.
her
stay in Canada
go.
for a while,
Not
David.
letting her go. Okay, so folks, before we say thank you, our final thank you to the panelists, I just, if you want more ways to get involved with animal justice, please subscribe to Animal Justice. We'll put the link in there. Please join our Animal Justice Action Team or enroll in the Animal Justice Academy. Our May panel will be about NFAC and how messed up it is that the standards for on-farm care of animals are decided not by the government, but mostly by the meat, dairy, and egg industry. And then June's panel will be Influencing Animals, featuring 5 influencers in the animal advocacy vegan space, talking about how you can become more influential in your own animal advocacy. And let's take us off of spotlight, Kirsten. I want to thank you all out there tonight for being a part of this, for being open to learning different, from a different viewpoint. And we are going to give you a chance to unmute in just 2 seconds. Actually, Kirsten, go ahead. And I'm going to invite our panelists, if you haven't already, to make sure you're on gallery view so you can see everybody. We got to 200 people tonight, folks, plus 200 people. And I'm so proud of all of you for inspiring us. And so I want to just, let's unmute everybody. And I want everybody to give a thank you to our panelists tonight. Jennifer,
Thank
Mike,
you.
David,
Thank
Renee.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Aw, thank you so much to our
Thank
panelists. Thank you so
you.
much to everyone.
Guys are amazing. Guys are amazing.
Uh,
Thank
we
you so
have,
much.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed thoroughly the presentation.
yay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right,
God.
folks, go out there. Be brave, be smart, be compassionate. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone.
Bye.